Oneness, received and transcribed by Rasha. Chapter 10. The ebb and flow of the tides of consciousness. The power of non-attachment to outcome. Timing the completion of core issues, and riding the energies as a tool for manifestation and karmic resolution. The clarity you have attained thus far on your journey has served to bring you to this moment. Here at this crossroads in time and space that you regard as today, the consciousness of humanity stands poised, an in-breath of life, awaiting the inevitable out-breath to follow. And just as the rhythm of the breath is anticipated and experienced in harmony with the rest of your life, the ebb and flow of the tides of your emerging consciousness is in harmony with the in-breath and the out-breath of all creation. The moments of clarity intensify and then wane over and over again. One experiences a spark of crystalline awareness and, in that exquisite moment, is convinced that clarity is here to stay. Yet, as one reaches to hold on to it, the illumination slips elusively past, like smoke through the finger's grasp, and one is left to wonder whether one has actually awakened or is still wandering the back roads of some dream. In all likelihood, as the process of transformation intensifies, one is experiencing both states of being simultaneously. The process of awakening is not one in which a definitive threshold is crossed, and one becomes enlightened, transformed, or ascended. There is necessarily much backsliding to be expected on this journey. And it is not unlikely to find yourself quite suddenly, seemingly, back at the beginning, when you were just patting yourself on the back for having scaled some daunting precipice, thinking the summit was at long last in view. This is very much the nature of the experience. Your own preoccupation with the concept of completion will keep that state of attainment ever elusive. Spiritual growth is not focused on a destination, but rather on the journey itself. The realization of oneness, which is the culmination of the process, is a state of beingness that you will embrace over and over again. And in the moments when that blessed state has slipped through your fingers yet again, know that you have not lost it, but rather have afforded yourself yet another opportunity to find it within the core of your own being again. When you cease looking for the sense of connectedness and cease seeking answers outside of your own inner source, the interim periods of separation, when your gravest doubts resurface, become fewer and farther between. Ultimately, you embody that knowingness that you are oneness in essence, and you have been so all along. When you make the transition from believing to knowing that basic truth, you are on your way to stabilizing the process of embodying that truth, such that you are fully aware of your interconnectedness with all of life at all times. Know that the truth you seek is within you. The answers are there before the question has even been fully formulated. You have manifested everything needed to have everything your heart desires right now. And there is absolutely nothing standing between you and the reuniting in oneness with all creation, for you are already there. When your perception of the illusion of time-space you know as reality becomes harmonized energetically with the momentum of the eternal now, you experience yourself as all that is. When the energies wane, you experience the illusion once more of separation. Just like the rhythms of the tides, this state of awareness washes up on the shores of your consciousness, nudging you into recognition of the knowingness harbored deep within. This knowingness does not wane with the rhythms of the transformation process, but it is there within the depths of your being, eternally. When the difference in these states of being has been experienced sufficiently to notice an emerging pattern, you are ready to begin to unravel the threads of the system of belief that reinforce the illusion of separation. When you have had the opportunity to taste the experience of divine connectedness, to the extent that it is clearly identifiable and not perceived as a random occurrence, you are ready to embrace the process of peeling back the layers of limitation that reinforce the elusiveness of the experience of oneness. It is in the depths of that process that most who are knowingly in the throes of the transformation find themselves. One begins to draw a correlation between the moments of exquisite connectedness and the ease with which the events of one's life fall into place. Then, just as suddenly, one seems blocked at every turn. One's will is thwarted, and it appears that, despite one's best efforts, nothing seems to go right. Fret not. These are classic signs of the advanced stages of the journey. These are symptoms of a state of beingness in which one's attunement to the higher frequencies is stabilizing. And as one shifts one's focus from the attachments that keep one tied to material priorities, out of fear of loss, and embraces the inner directedness and the sense of unconditional trust that transcends all earthly concerns, one is able to let go. It is in the letting go of limitations of the one that the limitlessness of the other may be realized. For those who are attempting to juggle both states of being as a way of hedging one's bets, the process takes much longer. For those able to let go totally, in recognition of a connectedness that is undeniable, the shift can be instantaneous. Once that shift has been made, and one is clear as to how reality can be choreographed vibrationally, the foundations for transcending material limitations can be established. There is no question, when one is at this stage of awareness, that there is a correlation between the inception of thought and the realization of experience. And one becomes focused on the subtleties of harmonizing one's personal will with the will of the Creator. When one's energies are attuned to the higher resonance, one is able to sense with ease the direction in which the current is moving, and one is able to be carried by the momentum of that energy and manifest outcomes that are harmonious. When one attempts to defy a situation by meeting adversity head-on, one disrupts the momentum and manifests results that are less desirable. Conflict can be circumvented simply by allowing it to pass, without becoming ensnared in its grasp. One learns that the inclination to force one's personal will, when resistance is being encountered, can only result in an energetic nosedive and the manifestation of frustration. And one becomes less invested in forcing a result and more inclined to allow for the harmonization of one's own energies with the tides of creation. Riding the waves of the energies is a skill that you will perfect as part of this process. Recognizing when you are in a state of connectedness is key to the timing of your response to the circumstances as they present themselves to you. When your energies are at a low ebb and you are experiencing resistance, it is time to pull inward and not to escalate adversity by directly confronting those circumstances. When you are floating upon an energy wave that is on an upsurge, this would be the time to initiate action. In so doing, one sets one's desired result adrift in the current of the energies and allows that momentum to carry one's heart's desire into manifestation. Non-attachment to outcome further enhances one's ability to realize an elevated result. When one's approach to living is one of trusting that the highest possible outcome will be forthcoming, that will be one's experience of life. By resisting the inclination to allow fear-based conditioning to direct your choices, you reinforce your experience of riding the current in harmony. Releasing the need to appear to be in control in one's own eyes and in the eyes of others is the key to one's ability to progress through this stage of the transformation. For there is no room for judgment here. Your own expectations with regard to your performance can severely restrict the pace at which you are able to progress through this phase and move on. An experience of adversity or a surge of intense emotion should not be the cause for drawing the conclusion that one is off track. Allowing the energy to pass through one's field and permitting the manifestations that are triggered to be unimpeded accelerates the process of release. Attachment to the expectation of an enlightened response from oneself to all circumstances restricts the possibility that a necessary release of a negative energy charge may be achieved. When one constricts one's natural response mechanism by filtering one's emotional reactions with the mind, one inhibits the potential benefits in the releasing of energy charges still lingering around certain life issues. Permitting oneself the latitude to respond with authenticity serves to enhance one's ability to bring those issues to completion. Timing one's responses to these highly charged emotional triggers enables one to direct the release without restricting it, and thereby bring to fruition the highest possible outcome. Similarly, the tendency to avoid certain situations and individuals as a way of circumventing conflict does not automatically guarantee one's unimpeded vibrational ascent. Ultimately, one's buttons must be pushed and the corresponding energy charge released if one is to realize one's highest potential as a transcendent being in physical form. An energy charge that is allowed to remain will continue to draw to it repeated opportunities for release. Avoidance of the underlying issues and the maintenance of a calm veneer does not enhance one's progress. Quite the contrary. Ideally, one is able to choose one's moment to work through core issues with key players in one's life drama. In so doing, one is able to confront the issues at hand directly, while coming from a position of enhanced energy, and thereby making the highest possible vibrational contribution to the interchange. Karmic resolution of issues with key players in your life drama may be brought to completion under ideal circumstances, and the optimum outcome achieved when one is consciously aware of the potential in riding the waves of accelerating vibration. By monitoring one's own vibrational state of being before reacting to an invitation to engage in conflict or conflict resolution, one is able to navigate through choppy waters precipitated by untold lifetimes of karmic history and bring all concerned safely to shore. Awareness of these choices is the key to all you would accomplish in this painstaking process. Tuning in to the ebb and flow of your own energies enables you to choose your moment and release the residual sparks of emotion in a way that is painless for all concerned. When the focus of your conscious awareness is directed toward that end, you are able to maintain the momentum of vibrational acceleration while releasing the self-limiting energy charges that are holding you back. By riding the wave of the energies with a clear and heart-centered focus, you become a lamplight to others who are caught in the tides of energy acceleration and are riding out the stormy seas of their own personal histories. As you transcend the circumstances of your drama and come to embody the energy of unity and oneness, your attunement to the higher frequencies guides you in guiding others who may be floundering by your side. Simply by being who you are, where you are, in this moment in time, and by sharing your truth and your process honestly with authenticity, you cannot but help the others with whom you share your journey. There is no need to whitewash your process for the benefit of others who may be inclined to be in judgment. There is no need to apologize for who you are and for the magnificence of your own personal journey. By being totally authentic in your humanness, your human frailties as well as your strengths, your self-perceived shortcomings as well as your triumphs, your darkest hours as well as your brightest shining moments, you set the stage for becoming a shining example of triumph over adversity with grace that you truly are. No one emerges from the journey of transformation without having weathered a storm or two or three or four or five, and without being washed up on the shore, gasping for breath now and then. That is the nature of the 3D Earth School experience. It is foolhardy to think that you are expected to skim the surface of your journey untouched and to emerge dry and clean, unscathed. That's not the way it works, when it really works. For to realize the full potential of this journey, it is necessary that you be willing to immerse yourself in the treacherous seas of change, knowing that the ability to swim like a champion under all possible conditions is within you, just as it is within every human being. Let there be no doubt in this, no fear, no regret. The destination is predetermined, and your course is set. You will arrive at that destination right on schedule. It cannot be otherwise. What is optional is what you choose to create and to experience along the way. There is no point in deluding yourself into believing that you are not ready. That is not possible. For it is far too late to wonder if it is safe to put your toe in the waters of transformation when you are already far from shore. Chapter 11. Integrating the momentum of change as a population. The catalyst for wars, famines, and natural disasters, and deferring to your own truth over consensus reality. There is no set pattern to the way in which beings come into awareness. For some of you, the experience of awakening is instantaneous, and the necessary number of exposures to the truth of your own essence is minimal. For those ones, the experience itself is the proof needed to sustain the essence of the initial experience of enlightenment. For others who have embodied that realization on countless occasions, the mind engages in the process, and the exquisite exquisitely simple essence of truth is obscured in a hail of questions, doubts, and mentalized concerns. There is no judgment implied here. There is no method of awakening that is preferable to any other. It is all experience, and it is all precious. It is the journey you choose to give yourself on your own personal path to oneness. It does not matter to the Prime Creator whether you need to taste truth once or 1,000 times before the light of oneness clicks on and stays on. This is a choice each being makes for themselves. No two journeys are alike, and it is not anyone's place to presume that his or her path is the path of choice for any other. All that can be shared is your own personal experience of that path. 4. All that can be taught is that which the student has chosen at the deepest level to learn already. Do not be inclined to fault yourself in becoming aware of the pace at which others may be traveling. Some may seemingly speed past, coming into instant realization. Still others who walk by your side continue to slip and flounder in puddles you have easily sidestepped or crawled out of long ago. It is not for you to assume an exalted stance simply because another has chosen repeat visits to that puddle in order to reinforce certain understandings. Every single journey of every single person is utterly perfect, just the way it is. As you begin to sustain the rarefied perspective you have attained, it becomes obvious that you are not alone in your perceptions of the truth. For the perspective you have assumed transcends that of the ego, the mind, which a lifetime of programming and brainwashing has conditioned to react in certain ways. One takes on the vantage point of the overview, seeing several sides of a situation simultaneously and seeing those from above. This seeing does not refer to understanding, which is a manifestation of thought, but rather reflects awareness, which is simply the observing of what is so. That vantage point has no stake in outcome, for it represents the detached, multidimensional perspective of your own extended state of being. The higher octaves of your own beingness are not invested in the outcome of interactions in the here and now you perceive as your 3D reality. The higher octaves of your own beingness are able to add a measure of indifference to the energetic equation. And as you elevate vibrationally, you take on an augmented perspective and an added measure of detachment that allows for a level of objectivity only possible from a distance. When steeped in the emotion-charged dramas which are magnetized to you as part of your process, that elevated perspective is disengaged so long as ego remains engaged. 4. In defending or asserting ego, you have committed to a perspective that is myopic and have placed the overview out of reach. Detaching from your investment in a particular viewpoint makes available the opportunity to see the multifaceted nature of all ego dramas. And it offers the potential gift in the recognition of a perspective that may not support the stance of a self still in the bondage of the illusion of separation. This level of understanding is not born of the process of thinking, and it is not something that can be taught until the individual is ready to learn. This transcendent state of awareness comes automatically when one is energetically attuned to shift into a higher vibration of one's own consciousness. This higher level of awareness is no less you than you already are. It is not a matter of becoming someone else, for that someone else is you right now. As your process evolves, you experience a quickening wherein a knowingness crystallizes in such an impactful way that it is impressed indelibly upon your consciousness and becomes the only truth possible at that level of awareness. This is the nature of the process of reintegration, experientially, on the journey to oneness. The awareness and the integration of heightened levels of inner standing are the byproducts of this process. And the end result will be achieved with or without your help. The reintegration of the fragmented aspects of your vibrational essence is a fact of human life. What is optional is the level of pain, disease, and discomfort one chooses to experience along the way. When one's ego clings to the trappings of a life that is a monument to separation, the dismantling process is a major, painful undertaking, and its manifestation in that individual's reality can be extremely uncomfortable. When there is surrender to the momentum of a process that is clearly larger than life, one is able to ease through the transition and experience the full magnitude of joy in one's realization of the heightened states of being. These are the conditions and choices available to you now, for you are oneness in every aspect of your essence. With every minute nuance of your being, you are the embodiment of the energetic equation of life itself. You are a holy hologram, a divine spark, a sacred fractal of Godsciousness. You are the physical embodiment of a momentum that yearns in unison with all creation to reunite with all that is. And that momentum is flowing in the direction in which it is flowing, regardless of the thoughts, interference, or resistance of anyone. Should large numbers of individuals demonstrate resistance to the movement towards unity, the ramifications of that resistance will manifest for that group. When the collective vibration of any one population of beings resonates at a low vibration relative to the population at large, the group in question will experience extreme forms of energy release, which materialize as catastrophic occurrences. Energetically, this is the catalyst for wars, for famines, and for seismic occurrences and other so-called natural disasters. Certainly, some of these occurrences are indeed expressions of nature, but the impetus for them is provided energetically by the population itself in all cases. It is crucial to understand that there are no victims. Although it would appear to some that certain individuals experience the results of energy release on behalf of the collective, for, as an energetic collective, all are one, and every one is eternal. The particular thrust of the release would be the energy of the collective, and not necessarily the energy of the individuals affected by it. Thus, it is entirely possible for an individual who is focused in spiritual growth to experience the result of an energy release that is regionally precipitated. An individual's elevated vibration does not guarantee that that individual will be spared the experience of events triggered by the sum total vibration of the region at large. The purging of large populations of individuals that had been foreseen for these times will, in all likelihood, not occur to the degree that had been anticipated. There will be no World War III. Much has transpired, and the interjection of the free will of the collective has served to shift much of the catastrophic scenario that had been envisioned by some people over the course of the millennia. And yet, despite the monumental shift in consciousness of large segments of your population, the energetic purging of certain geographic locations is still continuing. The transformation of which we speak is not limited to individual human beings on planet Earth. It is a phenomenon that will touch every aspect of life itself throughout all of creation. All life forms are participating in the journey to oneness, and all are affected energetically by the choices and the actions of every one. As an individual who is open, conscious, and focused in maintaining your loving intent, your obligation, first and foremost, is to yourself. Each choice you make in these times reflects your highest desire for your own personal well-being. At the same time, your awareness of the momentum of the whole, which parallels your personal experience of transformation, will guide you in making choices that reflect that expanded awareness. And yet, your personal well-being is not guaranteed by virtue of the fact that you are making conscious choices. You are affected vibrationally by the energies that surround you in a multiplicity of ways. And the extent to which you integrate your awareness of the interplay of the energies will determine much of what you will experience. It is quite possible for an individual who is geographically well situated, who dwells in a harmonious environment, and who is open to the dynamics of change and to the emergence of the divinity within, to manifest an exalted, joy-filled experience of transformation. It is equally possible that others who compromise in their choices, either consciously or through lack of awareness, will manifest escalating degrees of difficulty as their energies are caught up in the complexities of the energies of the collective. It is suggested that you do not attend to the news at all. What you term common sense is definitely a factor with regard to where you choose to place your awareness and with whom you choose to interact. Vibrationally, you diminish your own energies every time you engage in a negative encounter with another being or with news media. When you choose a negative environment in which to live or think, you subject yourself to constant exposure to energies that are pulling you in the opposite direction to the one in which you are consciously headed, and you are affected by negative energies. If the environmental disturbance is too expensive to be transformed by interpersonal dynamics, there remains the choice to change your location to one that is harmonious. This also applies to everything you do online. The choice to refrain from exposing yourself to negative environments is always there for you. Ideally, that choice will be made from a place of conscious awareness that the energies of the whole do affect you, regardless of how elevated you consider yourself to be or not to be. We are all one. And even though the momentum is one in which the actions of the collective affect each of the parts, and the choices of every individual affects the whole, there is an overriding impetus of divine intent driving the process. Unity and oneness will come to be, and it is of little consequence from the collective vantage point of all creation whether particular beings at a particular crossroad in time and space make the contribution of resistance or non-resistance to the energies of change. These powerful forces will carry you with them, flowing in the direction in which life itself is going, and at the pace at which life itself is flowing. Either way, your perception of the journey, your personal experience of it, is what you are here to create. All the rules are changing now. Your world, as you have been schooled to understand it, has already ceased to be. the cellular structure of every life form on your planet is changing. The resonant vibration of every living thing has been augmented, and the attunement of all consciousness to heightened levels of existence has been achieved. As a race, the human population has opened itself to receive the gift of divine grace. And even though precious few among you are aware of this shift, all are manifesting the result in one form or another. Some who have recognized their newfound abilities to manifest reality as they would like it to be, have learned to pool their collective strengths and to create a force for change on behalf of all. These ones, who are small but growing in number, have set the pace for others in their here and now, and continue to demonstrate by their own choices the possibilities available to all. These are the forerunners of a new paradigm. These are the pioneers whose lives herald a world whose rules are being written and continue to be rewritten in the moment. You may call them light workers, way showers, and star seeds, for that is what you are. The pace at which change is manifesting is an ongoing phenomenon. Life is not simply turning the page and writing itself a new overall script to which all must adhere indefinitely. The very foundations for the creation of your reality are, in fact, ever changing. In these times, that change is happening at a pace so rapid that it can be noted not only in the cosmic overview of your history, or even by a generation, but in a single lifetime, yours. Your very life is a testimonial to cosmic change. As you become consciously aware that the only thing that can be counted on is the realization that nothing is ever the same, you will shift from a mindset of expectation to one of allowance. You cannot control anything now. In fact, you are totally out of control. And these are the optimum conditions for maximizing the process of energy integration and for manifesting life experiences that you will find most enjoyable. Resistance to the reality that things are not the way they were when your schooling purportedly taught you the rules of the game will only reinforce the difficulties you may choose to create for yourself. Openness to what your experience has shown you is real here and now is the best possible response to the conditions at hand. It matters less what others may be saying or what the so-called teachers of your times may be espousing as truth. Your own experience is the highest truth for you. And it is this reality that, ideally, serves as your lamplight in the uncharted territory of these times. Each of you is a master in your own right. each of you has sufficient life experience to serve as a reference point for what is so for you. Conditioned deference to the leadership of others over the input of one's own experience can only inhibit the pace at which you travel on your journey. 4. Your life is a testimonial to your own choices and the insights you are able to glean from them and integrate. The habit of looking to others for a nod of approval does not serve to reinforce your autonomy as a self-realized being of divine sovereignty. It reflects and fosters dependency. There is but one truth on which you can depend no matter what, your own. All things are possible now. In essence, the slate has been wiped clean. It is a new world, one in which dreams will be realized in an instant, one in which the deities who walk amongst you can be recognized as your own emerging selves. It is a world where you are able to feel supported, happy, and successful in your endeavors. And a world where one can experience the indescribable joy of being in sync with the momentum of limitlessness. These are the conditions at hand, right now. Not someday, but in this very moment. The sacred journey of transformation has delivered you right to this moment. All that is optional is whether you choose to cross this threshold and experience it or not. Chapter 12, the elusive dream that is reality. This is the moment you have awaited since time immemorial. Your consciousness stands on the threshold of a radical shift for which you have been preparing for countless lifetimes. You sense that you are at a place of completion with your major life issues. You are able to identify the patterns and the themes that have surfaced again and again in the dramas of your daily life. And you sense, unquestionably, that something has shifted in the very depths of your being. The shift is subtle, barely perceptible, yet it is undeniable. The energy flows easily, and resistance is nowhere to be found. You are a pioneer in uncharted territory, yet you are most assuredly not alone. For you experience the connectedness from within that could only be divine. You are at a place of oneness with all creation. You have passed the point of no return on your sacred journey, and you have surrendered totally to the momentum that carries you effortlessly. Your life has become a joyous celebration, a gift you have given to yourself. This is the moment. This is the moment that you recognize what has been there all along. This is the state of being, eternally present in consciousness, that is crystallizing into form. You have given definition to your heart's desire. And now all that remains is your experience of it. The elusive dream described above is, in fact, your reality. It has already happened. Now, all that remains, quite literally, is your experience of it. And perhaps you wonder in this moment how much longer the dream will remain just out of reach. The answer: as long as you wish. As long as you continue to tell yourself that you're almost there, almost but not quite, you sustain the experience of the eternally unattainable dream. In fact, the dream is happening in your reality right now. And the way to be present in it is by being present in it right now. You do not require anyone's assessment or permission of your progress to be instantaneously living the dream. All that is required is to know that you are already there, dreaming. Chapter 13. Embracing the divine moment. The acceleration of the process of experiential compensation for the past, and recognizing the radical change in the ground rules that govern physical reality, and thus becoming the rock upon which all else rests. Resistance to the changes that are transpiring within you and without you will necessitate prolonged repetition of categories of experience that, essentially, you have already outgrown. As long as you cling to the idea of the old way that life is supposed to be, your life circumstances will continue to reflect a perspective that sees itself a victim of circumstance. The experiential evidence contributes to the perpetuation of a mindset that views itself as a fear-induced ego victim. And around it goes, the experiences reinforcing the presumptions and the presumptions setting the stage for experience. Eventually you tire of the injustice of it all, and in some poignant moment of desperation, the dark night of the soul, you will begin to dig within yourself and to unearth the clues that ultimately will lead you out of the wilderness. As you reach saturation point with the experience of disappointment and suffering, you will have set the stage for the shift in consciousness that can begin to create life anew. For, unbeknownst to you, the life you believe yourself to be living has not remained a static condition. You have assimilated much in the way of amplified vibration that would have opened the doors to a higher perspective that you, as an elevated soul, understand, and embody. Yet, your ego still enmeshed in the complexities of your life script, you have done everything in your power to resist the radical change that those levels of energy are calculated to stimulate. And most likely, you have continued to cling to the remnants of your self-styled life raft as it begins to drift into the more turbulent seas of change. It is true that you are not prepared for these times, not in the way that you expected to be. You were not taught to expect that suddenly, in midstream, your life would veer off course. And there you would be without a compass or a map or any of the other externalized crutches that you have taught yourself to rely upon. All that remains are the clues that begin to emerge from within. And in shifting the weight of responsibility for navigating your way through these uncharted seas, from what has been learned to what has never been forgotten, you are, once again, back on your way home. This time, however, the way has altered. It has some of the familiar landmarks, but the landscape in which you find yourself is a shifting one, and you learn instinctively to float within the fluidity of its embrace. This is not the world of the pre-programmed automaton that goes through the motions of enacting his robotic routine with predictable results. All that might have been predictable has been deleted from the program. And in increments, you begin to experience a taste of the magnitude of the real power that is your true essence. With a boost from the accelerating vibration of the world around you, you have been catapulted into new levels of experience, parallel and augmented levels of reality that enable you to transcend the nature of how you experience life. In essence, you have already ascended. And how you adapt to the subtle differences in the nature of your new surroundings help to determine the level of struggle you will continue to encounter as you acclimate yourself to conditions of unrelenting change. As each level is encountered and each set of conditions is assimilated vibrationally, you begin to refine and redefine your perception of the nature of your reality. And you recognize that you are invested in an ongoing process that has a distinct sense of where it is headed and has no need of your logical mind to steer the ship. With each profound level of vibrational augmentation you assimilate, inner standings emerge as knowingness, and you become quite comfortable with the process that begins to put the past and the trials of transformation in perspective. These inner standings are not in the form of facts with which you have been schooled, but rather in the form of a vantage point that has always been within you. But until these times of upheaval, these inner standings lay dormant, waiting for a frame of reference to give them relevance. Having transcended the conditions that kept you blinded in limited levels of perception, you are able to see what, until now, you could not. Your world and your place within it have shifted, ever so subtly at first, and you may not even notice initially that you are, in fact, somewhere totally different. And then it happens again, and yet again. And slowly, you begin to understand the nature of what is truly happening within you and in the world around you that reflects it. Ascension is not a one-time hurdle that, once traversed, is an event relegated to the past. Ascension is a never-ending process. You are experiencing its effects at all times, and it is a fact of life itself, whether or not you are comfortable with the idea of it. You have gifted yourself with the experience of ascension, also called awakening to the reality of your circumstances, in order that you might be liberated from the prison of karmically induced conditions. Now, there is the opportunity to shift some of those patterns, and now there is a chance to rise above the conditions of experiential reprisal for choices made in the levels of reality that you would consider to be the past. Now you are able to flow with the momentum that unites all creation. And with the help of the energies that flood your world, you have been gifted with the experience of a divine moment, one in which you have the chance to accelerate a process of experiential compensation that, under denser conditions, might have taken centuries of countless lifetimes, or in extreme cases might have cast you into a holding pattern of ongoing adversity for thousands of years. The call of the higher purpose of divine intent calls for a radical change in the ground rules that govern physical reality. And in order that all life might partake of the opportunity to taste their innate divinity and ultimately to unite in oneness, it was necessary that certain conditions be altered so that the energies of stagnation might be transcended by those who are ready to be free. That is the nature of the experience of these times. That is the impetus underlying the shifting sands of your experience of life. That is the opportunity being extended to those who dare to risk all they know for the chance that all they truly know might be revealed at all costs. You have awakened in the middle of a never-ending dream, and your sense that you might still be dreaming has never left you. Yet, now, it doesn't seem to matter, for you have had a flicker of illumination at center stage, and you have seen sure signs that the entire drama in which you experiencing your self-awareness playing out can be altered at will. You have experienced evidence that in this particular dream, you are not the hunted, the innocent who lives at the mercy of the volatile whims of a hostile world. You have declared a time out in the midst of all that chaos, and you have glimpsed yourself safe in the sanctity of all that swirls around you. In all likelihood, you haven't remained in that sacred center stage longer than a moment at best. But the realization registered nonetheless that somewhere within the realm of possibility there was that indescribable sense of peace. And you recognized that state of beingness, for it is the very nature of your own essence. And this time, you will not be required to spend lifetimes trying to recapture the magnificence of that moment. You gave yourself that experience in what you may suspect is some kind of a dream state, for you know that this time the sense of that connection would not ever be forgotten. Ultimately, you will realize that you have not been dreaming, for you are no longer asleep and never have been. The unrealness of the sense of separating from the circumstances that taunt you and thwart your will begins to establish for you a sense of separation from the illusion that you considered to be your life. You are not this nightmare. And whether or not you wish to continue acting it out becomes a question of choice. You have been given a split-second glimpse of your own sacred essence, your divine sovereignty, as separate from all the 3D world, and you know that you are safe in the silence at the center of the cyclone, so that choice might be identified as an option that can be acted upon at will. You are not in this movie unless you choose to perceive yourself to be. You are, in fact, watching it. And the seemingly unrelenting circumstances that you have in their grasp are... And the seemingly unrelenting circumstances that have you in their grasp are, in fact, illusory devices that you have created to instill certain levels of believability. Each blow to your pride, each disappointing outcome, is no more than an instrument of your own will, a symbolic prop with which you, as the consummate playwright, the director of your movie, sought to mirror yourself back to you. With the help of these powerful experiential symbols and quite a few actors, you have scripted the opportunity to see yourself in action and begin to recognize the moves and the lines you know by heart, and finally to see beyond the whole act. Ultimately, you will begin to notice the correlation between your unbridled intent and the shift in the circumstances you are able to draw into your life. And there will be no doubt that you have begun to manifest a certain caliber of experience, one that emanates from a space of inner trust and contentment, rather than from a churning core of fear and turmoil. The evidence of that fundamental transformation of the essence of the being within is reflected back upon you everywhere you look. And there can be no doubt of the power of inner peace made manifest that has become your experience of physical reality. The symbolic representations of the thought forms that float freely within your consciousness will continue to manifest during this transitory stage. And the harmonious foundation upon which life has begun to rest will continue to be peppered with episodes of adversity and discord. For your reality is a vivid representation of all that dwells, overtly as well as dormantly, within consciousness. And until you have manifested the opportunities as life experiences to draw the deep-seated energies that are harbored within you into release, and therefore ultimately to closure, those energies will continue to emerge in the form of life experience of adversity and discord. Your consciousness is not a bland canvas devoid of bias and passion, simply because you have been drawn deeply into your transformational journey and have conscious awareness of the symbolism represented by the images that unfold before you. You are still a product of your own unique essence, your conditioning, your childhood, your foundation, and all the unresolved remnants of the dramas and traumas of your full incarnate history of every past life. All are still factors actively in play in drawing to you and refining the resonance of your experience. What will have shifted as you continue to sift through the day-to-day details for the clues to life's mystery is the background of inner harmony against which it all now unfolds. The challenges which manifest naturally in the lives of every single human being will continue to emerge in your reality as well. Yet, now, these conflicts are not perceived as the earth-shattering catastrophes they may once have been perceived as. You have conditioned yourself to sidestep much of the provocation and the hooks that you continue to magnetize into your energy field, and in so doing, you have begun systematically to dissipate the energies that habitually have drawn these kinds of circumstances and people to you. Slowly, you begin to become aware that the intensity of these interchanges has waned, and now you are able to weather what might have appeared as a potential storm of major proportions with barely a ripple upon the waters within. you will have succeeded in structuring a renewed sense of inner trust, built in increments, upon a foundation of growing experiential evidence that, despite the accelerating momentum of the changes all around you, you have become the rock upon which all else rests. All the trappings of external security upon which you once relied unquestioningly have all been shaken or destroyed or abandoned. The relevance of much that was once considered irrefutable is now in question. The scripted role that you formerly seized in the idealized passions of youth is now visibly flawed. In the aftermath of all the disillusionment, of the fragility of all you presumed was etched in stone, you unearth your own eternal essence. Despite evidence to the contrary, you are none the worse for wear for having lived through the symbolic earthquakes of your personal life dramas. If anything, your sense of resourcefulness has been strengthened. Your resiliency has been reinforced. And in the absence of much, if not all, of what you expected you would be able to bank on, something indestructible and timeless remained. Your own sacred, sovereign divinity. It is that very same sacred essence that you have set about to excavate from within the core of your fears, of your mentalized conditioning that was your foundation before. Buried in the basement of your illusions, far beneath the distortions of all you were taught to believe, was a level of self that has remained untouched. That precious spark of your own divinity that you sought to discover, safe within you when all else failed, as you knew it would. You were the one who set it up that way, of course. When the shreds of the illusion with which you cloaked yourself had fallen to your feet and you were at last naked of pretense in your own eyes, you would perhaps for the first time be ready to see it. Some of you have battled more inner resistance to the simple truth of who you really are than have others. And some have left the aftermath of a war zone in your wake. Some of you knew that it would take little more than a tap on the shell of your crystalline awareness to break through to what shines from within you. Others of you were prepared to undergo a virtual holocaust within your consciousness. The resistance was so firmly entrenched. Ultimately, when all the mentalized devices for sustaining the illusion of separation have been disarmed and dissolved, you finally give up the fight. When at last there is nothing left to lose, you are ready. For only then, in the sacred space of humility, are you able to recognize and to embrace what has never been lost. That precious spark awaits you. It has given you clues to its whereabouts all along the way, a little glimmer now and then, just to keep you on track. But for some, it is only when you are absolutely convinced that you are hopelessly lost, when you simply do not know where to turn, that you turn within so that the real journey begins. Of course, you have choreographed every move so that you might be brought to this moment, regardless of what it took to get you here. Your unique dance is a reflection of your own interaction with that inner resistance. And it is that which has kept you bound to the illusion of the old paradigm of separation and the gospel of limitation and victimhood to which many of you were wedded. It required the wrenching experiences of disillusionment that you have weathered to break the bonds of some of those ties. For the power of guilt and fear continued to nourish the unrelenting sense of helplessness with which many of you emerged into awareness in this reality. Transcending the shadow ego conditioning is a feat not to be underestimated. You are a champion, just like everyone else. By virtue of the fact that you are listening to these words and considering these concepts, you have surely emerged from a history of these kinds of trials and tribulations. And you have reached the place in your journey where virtually everything you once held sacred has been scrutinized for relevance and flushed down the toilet. That is the plateau that must be reached before the real ascent can begin. When you succeeded in stripping yourself of everything that supported the monumental piece of fiction you masterminded and called reality, you became ready to begin to grasp a concept of reality and your place within it that is unquestionable. Now you have embarked upon a life direction in which your inner sensing determines what is and what is not so. And the power of the consensus understanding of what is real and what is unreal is known to be irrelevant if it cannot be verified by how it feels to you. It becomes less a question of what can be validated through analysis and lengthy journeys through the labyrinths of logic than what your own heightened sensibilities feel like. And you begin to rely more on your own inner truth and less upon the road maps of a bygone world to guide you through the uncharted territory within. These times represent an unprecedented crossroads for you all. For you have emerged in awareness at a place where many worlds intersect. Your perceptions and the choices they prompt you to make will help you determine just how rocky the climb ahead will be. Those of you who have reached a place of inner surrender to the majesty of what you have begun to experience in your inner world will encounter the path of least resistance, which will lead you on the next leg of your journey. You will recognize it inwardly, even though you may believe it to be the great unknown. For the part of you that has opened At long last, your heart knows this path